Hello and welcome to another episode of You Might Want to Sit Down for This Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Von Helvet, and we are at episode 15. I want to acknowledge that this podcast was recorded from my home, where I live, on the traditional territory of the unceded Coast Salish territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Makwi, and Stolo people. Unceded land meaning it was never surrendered. It's important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us together on this land, which I think most of us probably in North America are on some kind of land that that was probably not rightfully taken. So recognize. Excited about this episode because I have two really fucking rad guests, dear friends of mine, Jessica and Kristen from Mable Syndrome Podcast. They had me on their podcast some years ago, and these two ladies were really some of the inspiration that made me go out and want to do my own podcast, do this thing here that I'm doing right now. So I was really stoked to have them back on, kind of like a full circle thing. And if you're not familiar, Mable Syndrome it's almost kind of like a collective. Like it started with Jess and Kristen, and it grew. And it's women from all over the world, and there's multiple different projects beyond the podcast or things that they're doing. But they're standing for some awesome causes, some things that need to be talked about ultimately it's the punk rock community, but I would say it's just the music industry community, or the world in general, just issues that women deal with going to shows. Both Jess and Kristen are moms, so yeah, it's like this collective that supports women and also helps guys, learn kind of what's going on and maybe more aware of some of the shitty things that happen to women in the punk rock scene and beyond, or just some of the things that women go through on a regular basis maybe we don't think so much about. Whatever it is. And sometimes they're just talking about just body shit, you know what I mean? Like, because they're moms and they're living their lives and doing their thing. So we cover a lot of ground on this. And I think it was a really fun episode. I think that you're going to enjoy listening to. Going to play a little bit of Lagwagon on this episode. We were chatting about Lagwagon and face-to-face. We always talk about face-to-face with these girls. They love their face-to-face. Fat Wreckers Band. Both those are Fat Wreckers Band. So a little bit of music from definitely Lagwagon. Maybe face-to-face. We'll see. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to everyone who listens and follows and shares this podcast. Appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. Please keep doing that. To Comedy Here Often for, what's up, to the beautiful Alexi for always producing great sound if you're listening to the audio version. And if you want to check us out at Instagram or on Instagram at Sit Down for This Podcast. If you want to find us online, www.sitdownforthispodcast.com, and you can find all the links to audio there as well as YouTube. There's a video version of this too if you're just listening, and there's always a little slideshow, try to add a little added bonus, added footage on the YouTube stuff if you want to check that out. And comedyhereoften.com. You can find us all there. So without any further ado, I'm going to just move this intro along, and we're going to just check out the talk I just had with Jessica and Kristen from Mable Syndrome.
It's working. It wouldn't be anything to do with Mabel if there was no technical difficulties right off the bat, because I don't think we've done a podcast episode yet where it's like that.
I found for editing mine, which I try not to, there's always one weird random thing, the cleaning ladies in the hallway vacuuming, or the repairman comes to, there's always one fucking 2-minute glitch of dead air.
Yeah, there is. There's likely a rooster to crow out my bedroom window or a baby to cry at the door. So
Is Colin home?
Colin is home. Colin is sleeping. So the 11-year-old is watching the baby. So
perfect. Well, I took a minute or two and bounced. Speaking of my technical difficulties, I rolled away, but I poured myself a mimosa because I thought, let's get fancy, because I got the. Sorry if I made you envious of this mimosa.
Damn it!
Well, I'm saying you can do it too.
Am I allowed to leave and come back?
Yeah, Kristen will stick around. You can take turns as long as someone's there.
Oh, you have a face-to-face mug. I poured water in my wine glass from last night.
Nice.
I am going to tell you that I'm already super nervous because I'm not used to being recorded visually.
Well,
and it's new for me.
Well, you look beautiful. Both of you look beautiful. I thought that was a funny start where you're like 2 minutes to start time. Oh shit, this is video? We gotta get some makeup on.
You gotta let ladies know. Dudes don't care, but you gotta let ladies know if it's visual.
I was literally in my pajamas and I was like, I don't care. It's fucking Kevin. I'll just like wing it. And then I'm like, maybe not.
Well, that's noted. Every other female I've had on here seems to have got the memo or assumed.
We're vain at Mabel. We're vain.
You're all good.
So.
But you're busy too. You're busy ladies. You've got kids and all kinds and a podcast, right?
Yeah.
You got a lot going on. So let's hear what's your podcast? For all the listeners out there who don't know.
Kristen, I'm letting you take this. Okay. Yeah, we have the Mable Syndrome Podcast. So it's Jessica and I and some of our friends, and we have bands on occasionally and artists and all sorts of people. And we talk about, we want to start it to have women talking about punk rock. So it's mostly women talking about just our daily lives, going to shows, what, gone on over the years, going to shows. And we have, we do interviews on it as well sometimes. And so it's just women talking about punk rock. So I hope people find it and subscribe and check it out.
Yeah. Any of my female listeners, check out Mable Syndrome, but guys too. I think it's good for guys to listen to it because we can learn a lot from the ladies on there. Because I think generally, if you're not a piece of shit, you probably think the punk scene's fairly safe. I don't know if I'd suggest any girlfriend of mine or sister crowd surfing. They're probably going to get a grope, but I think guys don't really know maybe what's going on and what's going on in women's lives, what kind of stuff's out there. So definitely worth listening because you can learn a lot from these two ladies.
Yeah, our audience is 50-50. So we have a lot of male followers and listeners, and they're a really important demographic, I think, to hear what women have to say.
And we have like from the beginning, like some of our most diehard followers and supporters are men, right? Like we have a few that have been with us since day one, and they're amazing. So, but yeah, it's really true. I think that there's a lot of time we give a perspective that people are really surprised about. And we've had feedback like that from guys being like, holy shit, I had no idea. And I mean, that's like for the good things and the bad things. We're also completely ridiculous on the podcast. Like the topics that come up are kind of out of control, and we don't really have a good filter.
I think that I did an episode a few years ago, and when I think the first 10-15 minutes was you just talking about like your vaginas, or it was or like I can't remember what it was. It was something to do with maybe toilet paper. I don't know, but it was definitely very vagina focused. And I was like, cool.
That was the second time we tried recording with you, Kevin.
Yes.
That was the second time because the first time Kevin was vagina focused and not with us.
Well played. Yes.
Set us up for two blondes at the bar.
Yeah. I seem to recall him letting us know that was what was happening, though. So you did give us a fair warning, and we just decided maybe not record that today.
I didn't. And you know what? I didn't understand then, like you do now, how important sound quality is. Like when you have like Chuck from Caddies was one of my first guests, and he's basically like in a backyard, like that pretty much sound like a farm. There's like birds and this like gate people kept opening, like. It sounded like if you listen to like a horror, like thing, like it was just so, all the sounds were so like magnified that, like it probably wouldn't have worked if I did it me in a bar trying to pick up girls with like all the background noise. But at the time I was like, that'd be a great, maybe in person, but not for the sound, right?
We've had a few like that too, like especially when we first started, like there was recordings in bathrooms, and there was, people that because people don't know if they're not recording a podcast. Like, it's funny because we had Babs and Maria on. I interviewed them this week, and it's the third time we've tried to record with them because all 3 times it's been like, nope, this isn't going to work. Yeah. But they have their own podcast now. So when I interviewed them this week, they were like dialed in immediately. They knew exactly what was up because now they're doing their podcast and they know, right? So it's just like people just don't know how important the sound quality is. So
truly. And I think, how long is, remember, I thought it was called Maple Syndrome. I thought it was about a Canadian reference. How long has Mabel, it's a Goldfinger reference, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great band. But how long have you been doing the show?
Coming up, this is 5 years, right?
4 years of the show. We've been doing Mable Syndrome as a whole. We have a few different parts of Mable Syndrome. So we have the podcast, which has been going on for 4 seasons, about 4 years. And then we have our social media, which Instagram is probably our biggest platform. And then we also have some Facebook groups that are women only. And so the community is another part of it. So we kind of have these different parts of Mable Syndrome. And but the podcast has been going on for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Wow.
It's almost like a modern day kind of Riot Girl thing, right? Where, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. It started off like, we literally started Mable Syndrome. Like, Kristen and I didn't even know each other. And she reached out to me one day through the Face-to-Face fan club. And she was like, hey, you seem cool. I have this idea of sort of bringing women in punk rock together. And I think me and you could do a good job of it. And I was like, okay. And we sort of like came up with the name and came up with the website, and we're like, nobody's going to pay attention to us. Nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to, nobody's going to say yes to us for interviews or things like that. And it just really snowballed because people say yes to us 9 out of 10 times. And we were shocked. Is that a vacuuming lady in the background?
Nope. But it's the fucking landscapers.
Is that a leaf? Is that a leaf blower?
It might be a leaf blower. I'm gonna tell that person where to stick that leaf blower. I said every episode.
Every time.
I'm gonna at least shut my window and hopefully the sound cancellation will take out the rest. But give me a second. Sorry. Okay. Hey, talk amongst yourselves. There's 2 of you. Just keep it so I don't have to edit this out.
Okay, we will.
I just chat.
We like the chance to see each
about
other.
leaf blowers or whatever.
It reminds me of the time that we were interviewing Frank from Mr. T. Yeah, Dr. Frank, and he left to go answer his doorbell, remember? And we were like, do you think he's having a good time? And you're like, I don't know, we can't tell. And we were like giggling.
What question should we ask next?
Yeah, what next? What do we do? This is the same concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a little better?
We filled in. Don't worry, we filled in.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I like this. I need to have 2 guests all the time.
It'll be a surprise.
I can't wait. I need to have 2 guests all the time. There's never dead air.
No, never dead air.
Okay, sorry. So
we've had dead air. Don't worry.
I have 2. The last guest I had was not out yet, but drinking and smoking weed the whole time. Which, sure, cool. He's having fun. He is kind of the chill, quiet dude normally, so I think that helped really bring out.
Oh, nice.
Yes, but it would be like, who is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Sean, the drummer from Good Riddance, and like a million other bands. Yeah, he's a good, and he'd be like, because I'm like, I can't remember all your albums, and he'd be like, hold on one sec, like all your bands, and he'd go on his phone and start like Googling, and I'm like, this is not good podcast right now, no. But. So I'd be like, anyway, so like trying to like just do it myself while he's.
It's hard.
He's being my fact guy for his shit.
For his show.
Yeah. Anyway, so sorry for the interruption. So you're talking about how you met. So Kristen reached out, said, let's do this punk thing, and you lived really close to each other, so that was logistics was easy.
Yeah, different countries, different sides of the continent, totally.
Different coasts.
It's really good to do a podcast when there's like a 4-hour time difference and you throw in a third guest who's somewhere in the middle, and
So that's been a problem all along. You think there's a 4-hour time difference, but there's really only 3.
I wasn't gonna correct her, but yeah, it's only 3 hours. You'd think she lives in Newfoundland or fucking Boston.
That's why she can never quite fucking figure it out.
Well, she was here before you were this morning. I will say that much.
Oh God.
By about a minute.
That's the thing. It is not a secret in the people in my life that I have an extreme issue with directions, time zones. Like it is a common rule amongst my friends, and especially Colin. Like if I say no, it's this way, he knows automatically to be like, no, it's not. And I can go somewhere like 100 times, and I can be like, oh, I swear it's this way, and he's like, nope, no, it's still not. So the time zone feels the same.
Maybe is that dyslexia?
It's like a directional dyslexia, I swear to God. And I feel like time zones are just like a little side part of it. But really, 3 hours? Fuck me.
Direxia. You have direxia?
Direxia?
Yeah, all right.
So yeah, we met and it snowballed from there. And it people just started saying yes. And we just kind of rolled with it. And it hasn't been without its struggles in terms of kinks with our life issues and time zones that I can't understand. And, I've moved, we've had divorces, we've had babies, we've had a million things have happened in the last 5 years, but we somehow still managed to keep plugging away. Right. So, and I give Kristen credit for that, because she is the driving force, and I'm hanging on.
Well, then shut up and let her talk.
Okay, I know, it happens. No,
just joking.
Common issue, I swear to God. Okay, go.
Just to everyone listening, these are good friends of mine. I'm not...
Yeah, we're not strangers.
Yeah, we're definitely not strangers. Okay, Kristen. I'm like, I don't know what you're going to talk about, but I just put you on the spot with that one, didn't I?
Can I also say that it looks like you're wearing a bra, Kristen?
Does it?
Yeah, it's hot.
It's a full shirt.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it looks like you're just rocking straight bra.
It does.
Well, it's punk rock.
Yeah, go for it.
And I have this bright window behind me, which like keeps fucking with the light, but sorry about that.
It actually looks, from my end, it looks good.
Okay.
Yeah. It looks like a beautiful day out there in Boston.
It is.
Or Massachusetts.
It's hot. It's in the 90s.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 38 or some shit here today. Is it hot? Jess, you're pretty far up, but is it still getting pretty?
Yeah, we're still getting the heat wave of our own version of the heat wave, and I don't do well. I don't do well in the heat.
No, you can't function. I just talked to my neighbors. They're like, we don't see you on your bike anymore. Like, 'cause I normally would ride by, and I'm like, I can't fucking ride when it's like 100 degrees. Like, I'll die.
I can't deal. I literally go out of the house, do what I have to do, come home, take all my clothes off.
Yeah, I just got an AC installed in my bedroom yesterday, and I'm so excited. Like,
nice.
It's probably gonna fall out and take out my other cat because it's hanging on by a thread, and he usually jumped in that window, and I hope it doesn't. But yeah, I've got some cool air. Do you ever tackle such issues as global warming or climate change on Mable Syndrome? Kristen, I'll let you take this one.
No, we have not. That's one issue we have not tackled yet. We tackle some hard issues. It's like a good balance of shooting the shit and talking about literally shit, or farting, or
farting up the front is classic.
Issues, yeah, farting up the front, which is not pleasant.
I'm like getting a visual, and I don't know if does it have to be a wet one, or it's just sound? I don't even know.
It depends how you're sitting.
Okay.
And the air just goes a different direction.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about dating because we've both been single at different times. So that's kind of a common theme that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like our personal lives, and then there's a lot of punk rock talk about our favorite bands and shows that we've seen and things like that over the years. And then we do interviews as well. So there's just kind of like a mix of all those different things.
Do you not do interviews every episode? No.
No, sometimes it's just us.
Just the two
People
of you.
like that.
People seem to want a lot of episodes of just us. Like when we throw it out there to listeners and stuff, they kind of seem to like the shoot the shit episodes a lot more. And for the longest time when because like we're not putting out episodes as regular as we used to, but when we were putting them out regularly, it was sort of like one episode us, one episode interview, one episode us, one episode interview. We alternated back and forth when we were really into the heavy part of the podcast. But people really like hearing us be idiots, I think.
Well, and it's probably more, I mean, once you add another person, it just kind of changes the dynamics. I imagine for the two of you, you know each other so well that it's just like, yeah, you can go off on tangents, or there's no interruptions, and
Yeah.
very raw, I imagine.
Yeah.
Well, and we take our interviews really seriously too. So we do a ton of research, and
I don't.
do a ton of background work, and you know, we want to be super prepared and ready for it. And I mean, that's one of the reasons we started it, is because I was getting tired of seeing YouTube interviews, or podcasts were barely a thing, but like hearing interviews with my favorite bands, and they were like, so how'd your band get its name? And
Yeah.
well, last night you were in Albuquerque and tonight you're in Santa Fe, like awesome. And they were just boring.
They're the same thing over and over again.
Same old questions, right? Yeah.
Same questions. And I just felt like, gosh, we can do that. Like we can do a better job of that. And we have maybe some interesting questions as women, and maybe people will open up to us in a different way or whatever. And so that's why we started. And so we took our interviews really seriously, and we take them very seriously when we do them.
And we had feedback too from those. Like we had a number of musicians be like, holy fuck, nobody's ever asked me that before. You know,
That's
like
cool.
We had that feedback, and you're like, yes. Or, you know, you do this deep research and they're like, yeah, you put some effort in.
I commend you for that. I'm pretty sure there hasn't been an episode where I haven't asked about the fucking weather. And I'm sure at this point, my listeners are like, seriously, dude, like, do you get your questions from an elevator conversation? Like, looks pretty sunny out there today. It's going to be a hot one. Like, holy fuck. But yeah, I commend you for doing research. I usually write a few things down and then but I really don't do a lot of research.
See, I feel like we had that pressure on us as women, though, like that if we came in unprepared, it would be dismissed as this is how I felt. I don't know if I don't want to speak for Kristen, but like going in unprepared, I think like, holy fuck, those girls don't know what they're doing, or they're just groupies, or they're just there for, you know, like that was sort of the stereotype we wanted to break, was like, actually, we know a lot about your music. We know a lot about you as people. We know, you know, like instead of going in unprepared, because I think as women you get dismissed that way in the punk rock scene, because, you know, it's that whole like you're wearing a band t-shirt, oh, like name 3 of their songs kind of, you know, concept. So we just really wanted to make sure that we didn't get that. Like, is that right, Kristen? Is a good way of saying it?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I did feel that extra pressure of making sure we were well prepared and knew our shit. And super professional. So before COVID, I used to interview bands in person. I really like meeting with the band in person, just having that one-on-one experience with them. And I would, you know, trying to find a quiet place, which we were talking about earlier, is a challenge when you're like catching them before a show or whatever, and there's sound practice going on and stuff. And so I've gone into vans, I've gone on the bus, I've gone backstage, you know, you go all these places with these bands, and you, as a woman, you feel this added pressure to keep it like super professional. And you know, I just go ask my questions, do my job, say thank you, and leave right away. You know, it does. It feels like added pressure being a woman.
Like, it's a weird feeling to me, like when I get to go backstage and other people see me going backstage, I already know what people are thinking about me.
Oh, they think like, oh, somebody sucking cock today or something like that?
Hands down. That's what the assumption is, right?
That's brutal.
Like, I've never gone backstage before. And even with like, you know, bands like Face to Face, where they're buddies of mine.
You guys got to be really good friends. You girls got to be really good friends face to face, hey?
Yeah. And like, you know, that's the impression, like, oh, there she goes backstage. It's just one of those things. So
that sucks.
Yeah.
And this is why we have Mable Syndrome. And I think I was thinking when you were just talking about that I think I've heard so many times from like female artists where it's like, you're my favorite female punk band, or you're a great guitar player for a girl. Like, just like, that's not really a compliment.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not.
It's kind of a backhanded compliment. It's like a sexist. Yeah. So I get it. That's cool. You're doing that. Didn't you have an interview with a fellow from Millencolin that was you're telling me in a hotel room or something? Wasn't that one an interesting one?
That was our first in-person interview, and Kristen and I met in person for the first time about 20 minutes prior.
That's really funny. So you'd probably been doing this for years, and you hadn't actually hung out in person.
Yeah,
No, this was our first interview, period.
Right. Was it? You started off with Millencolin.
Yeah.
Millencolin singer. Is it Nicola, right?
Yeah.
You weren't fucking around, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just said yes.
Like that's what we found at the very beginning. I would just email these people directly and be like, hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And we would get people that said, yeah, I've never been asked by a woman before, literally.
Yeah.
So sure, I'll talk with you. And Nicola didn't say that, but he just was super kind about it right from the get-go and was like, sure, let's do it. And so, yeah, Mable Syndrome was probably only like 4 months in at this point. We had never done an interview before. And I flew out to Vancouver to meet Jess. And so we met for the first time. We're hanging out at our hotel room. We have an interview.
Was it love at first sight? Was it like, there was no like, oh, it's a little awkward, we're friends over the internet? No,
but the first thing, one of the first things she said to me, like I remember getting out of the car and like hugging, and then she was like, you're not as tall as I thought you were. And I was like, you're shorter than I thought you were, because apparently in my photos I look like an Amazon woman. Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody looks tall to me. I'm in a fucking wheelchair.
But it was love at first sight. But
I love it.
Yeah.
So yes. And then
but it's a funny story because we had our interview with Nicola in like a half an hour or something. And so I ran around the hotel looking for a quiet.
You had a half an hour like to do it, or a half an hour it was like gonna happen?
It's gonna happen in a half an hour.
Yeah.
He's coming to our hotel. He's coming to our hotel to meet us in a half an hour. And so I'm running around trying to find a quiet spot. Here comes the quiet spot again, which is always a challenge, right? And I couldn't find one for the life of me. And I go to the front desk of the hotel and I'm like, do you have a business center or like an office space we can use? And they're like, nope.
Sauna, like, or something quiet, anywhere I can hide behind a door.
Anywhere. Yeah, closet we can go in, anything. And they're like, nope. So we go to our room. Jess and I are sharing a room at this hotel in Vancouver, and we didn't have an audio recorder. All we had was a video recorder.
Like a video camera, like we had a camcorder.
We had a camcorder.
Like old school, like tape in. Yeah, sweet.
So we set it up on the bed, and it was kind of a cool room. We had we had a bar. We had like a bar in our room, which was awesome. So we had a food out on the bar, and we were like, we're just gonna have to invite him here. Like, there's literally no other place.
Yeah.
So we go down to the lobby. He's here in the lobby. We go down. And we're like, he's like, well, where are we going to go to the interview? And we're like, in our room. And he's like, is there anywhere else we can do it? And we said, no, we've
He's
tried
like, how am I going to explain this to my wife? Like, I'm on videotape in a hotel room with 2 random chicks.
It's the most awkward elevator ride. The elevator ride up to our room. Like, we're standing in the elevator and there's already a language barrier bit. We're just in the elevator and it was just like,
You should have asked him what the weather in Sweden is like. It's a good icebreaker.
Always a good, right?
But, okay, so.
But he could not be nicer. He ended up spending 2 hours with us.
Wow.
We drank beers. We talked about everything. And I think it's another example of maybe being women. I don't know. But and also my personality is such that I just like to get to know people, and I like to ask kind of those harder questions, but I hope it's known that I'm doing it from a place of pure interest in the person.
Yeah.
And that I have good good reasons for asking them. And so Nicola has this really interesting story that one of his brothers, he had 2 brothers, but one of them went missing, just literally went missing, and the whole family didn't know where he was for years. And so at the time I didn't know, that's all I knew. And so I remember looking at Jess, because that was one of my questions, is like, let's talk about your brother. Like, what the heck happened? And Jess is looking at me like,
oh, Jess knew more.
No, I just was like, we're not going there.
I got you.
She's like, don't do it. Yeah. She's the nice Canadian, and I'm the hard, like, Boston girl.
It's true.
Yeah. And I asked him, and he was super open and honest about it, and really forthcoming, and he just could not be a guy.
Nice.
But we transcribed that one because of his language barrier. He asked us to, and so we transcribed it, and it's on our website at mablesyndrome.com. But it's
really? So you never aired it?
No.
We asked him not to because of the language barrier. There was a lot of like pauses and him questioning what certain words were.
Yeah. And you know what? Like,
Go ahead.
It turned into something like super casual. Like at one point he was like kind of like casually leaning back, like laying on the bed, and there was like a thing to plug your iPod into to play music, and he was like, "Oh, have you heard this? Have you heard this?" And he just like plugged his iPod in and was like playing us like random songs that he thought we should hear and stuff. And the amount of times Kristen and I looked at each other like, this is actually happening to us. Like this is actually happening. Like was pretty incredible. It was a pretty amazing first experience. So.
And Millencolins, like that's both you, like that's a top band in your roster of favorite bands, right? I know it is in mine. Like that's really, really cool. I didn't know there was that much of a language barrier though. I mean, you can kind of hear it in the lyrics, but I've never talked to the guy, right? So you're like, well, all the songs are in English. They must be all right. But they just got to figure out how to sing in English because it probably sells better over in this market, I'd imagine, than Swedish.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, to think about that? I remember the first time I saw them though, which was like, I think in like 1997, maybe. And I remember seeing them live and being like, that there was a language barrier when they sang as well. I remember the live show being, and then it wasn't that way when Kristen and I saw them like years later. But earlier on, I remember seeing them live and being like, this seems a little not as flowy, right? So yeah.
Was that a Warped tour?
I think Nicola had a good time because Jessica and I there was a show that night. So we went to the Millencolin show, and I had asked about Bouillon because it's my favorite song. And I had asked about the origin of that song. We talked about it for quite a while and stuff. And so when he was about to play that song, he was like, this one goes out to Kristen and Jessica.
Amazing.
And I mean, like one of the highlights of my life, honestly. Yeah. I was just shocked and like flattered and just, I don't know. It was amazing.
And must have like kind of validated any doubts you had about, oh shit, fuck. What the fuck? Are you still there?
We're still here.
No. I have like a basic fucking Zoom, I guess. So
more than one person then.
Yeah, I've never done it. So it's going to run out in 9:40 and then I'll just start another meeting if that's all right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, cool. But I clicked something and then it said it was like upgrading and the screen went away and I'm like, whoops. Just really on the ball today.
It's okay. We're here.
It's a double mimosa.
We don't judge. Trust us.
Thank you. But that's so cool. And yeah, that's, I was saying, it must have validated. You're like, all right, we can do this. Like we're getting a shout out.
If our first experience was bad, we would have been devastated. And I don't even know if we would have continued, but having a really great first experience and then success after that. And it helped us so much. Like, and that's what, our audience is half men, half women, but a lot of our initial experiences were men that were really encouraging to us. And our friend Jay, who runs Dying Scene, gave us a ton of contacts and supported us and helped us. And my buddy Sal, who's in the band Rebuilder, like absolutely, he did a ton of graphics for us and supported us all the way. Danny Thompson of Face to Face was the one that encouraged us to do a podcast, so do more audio and visual interviews. And so it was just all these men behind us saying like, you can do this, like this is important. And that was huge for us.
That is cool.
And if you look back at our first year, like our first year of the podcast, we have the biggest guests we've ever had in the entire time because people were just saying yes to us. Like we had Jesse Michaels from Operation Ivy. We had Millencolin. We had Jughead from Screeching Weasel. We had like all of these crazy interviews that people just said yes to us. And I look back and I love it because it was our first year, but also it would be really nice to be this experienced and have those guests now, Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And I was going to say power to you because like you really shot. You're like, well, I'm going to fly across the country to fucking Vancouver. We're going to have like the lead singer of one of our favorite bands and a quite big punk band in the punk world as our first guest. Like you didn't start off small. You fucking went for it. Could have been maybe a gamble, maybe some could say, but like it totally paid off. And I think that's funny. Rad.
It's funny when I remember like that first year, you go to write an email to someone and like the addresses pop up that start with the same letter. And it was a pretty fucking insane experience to like write in the letter J and you have like Jughead from Weasel and Jesse Michaels in your contact list.
Yeah.
I remember just whose life is this? What's happening here?
Yeah, I've been pretty excited about every email I've gotten from Blag from the Dwarves over the last month, because we've been kind of bouncing back and forth and just being like, and he was like, "Good job," and I'm like, "Yes, you liked what I did. That's so cool." It's a pretty rad little sweet bonus. You get that you get to meet these people, and they're stoked to do the show, because you're in a sense you're doing them a favor. You're helping them get their name out, their product out, their band out, their message out, right? So
yeah.
You've started off big too, Kevin. Who's been your favorite guest so far?
Good question. I didn't realize I was getting asked questions.
She's the Howard Stern of Mable Syndrome, just
Totally.
so you know.
And if just in case all of my guests listen, I've loved you all the same. No, it's hard. I honestly legit couldn't say, because I've had
our episode's not out yet, so you can't say us. So
this one, obviously. But I've tried to really mix it up. So it's not necessarily a punk rock podcast, but it's me, so it's obviously gonna fucking be punk rock. But yeah, they're all different. And this last one I found to be a really cool one with Tim O'Hara from the Lillingtons. And it was just mostly because it was really challenging, because I went into it thinking I was just basically going to chat with the drummer from the Lillingtons, and we're going to talk about punk rock and bullshit. And I didn't realize that the band had broke up and had maybe left on exactly the best terms, and he was totally changing his life and kind of walking away from punk rock, and it just caught me off guard. And it was like really, it wasn't intense, but I was like, I didn't know any of this shit, you know? And again, this is what happens when you don't do your research. But yeah, it was like a friend introduced us and just kind of gave me a little bit of the scoop, and I thought, whatever. So that one, I feel like, yeah. And I do promo videos. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be doing those, because this last one took me about 20 hours to do.
Oh God.
Just, yeah, because I wanted it to convey everything that was kind of in there, give a little teaser, but not make it so it kind of look like clickbait, because he did talk, he did kind of cover some ground that could be, if I put it on there wrong, it might be taken the wrong way, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, that one, I mean, getting Blag from the Dwarves is really cool. Keith from Caddies, Nubs. I mean, everyone, I've genuinely enjoyed every episode I've done.
Cool.
Including this one. How about you? I'm going to ask questions now. Are you just going to use this as your next podcast? Because you could, if you ask a few more questions, you could just do an intro, and you got me back.
We'll
if you didn't have any in the
for sure.
Yeah, if you didn't have any in the can, I can send you the recorded. But is there a particular interview that sort of stands out as, say, maybe the content or the topic, or just something was talked about that you feel was really important, or just something where you end it and you're like, I'm proud we put this out. This is going to make a difference in people's lives. I imagine lots of them, but is there maybe just one that kind of comes to mind?
What one jumps to you? Do you have one right away, Kristen?
I do. And unfortunately, you weren't in on this one, but
you weren't there. It was great.
You weren't there. I interviewed Vinny Fiorello, who was the drummer of Less Than Jake. And he's doing a new band now called The Inevitables. But I believe it might have been one of his first episodes talking about leaving Less Than Jake, which was a huge decision for him to leave that band. I mean, it was everything to him. Everyone that knows Less Than Jake knows that it was Vinny's band. He did all the social, he did all the graphics, he did all the writing of the lyrics for the song. He did everything. And so for him to leave that band was huge, and it was a shock for Less Than Jake fans. And so he talked a lot about that, and he talked about how he had a brain tumor, and he had some health scares, and it was just really, I think it was really powerful for me as a big Less Than Jake fan. I think it was powerful for me.
Cool. And I can relate. Like I was saying, that last one was leaving a band is getting divorced, but it's getting divorced to 4 people for 3 people,
you lose your life and kids.
Yeah, it's a big thing, and people start at such a young age that it's you're just so yeah, and then to leave that, I get it. I could see where that would be one that really stuck out.
What about you, Jessica?
Favorite interview?
Yes. Or just like an episode that really sticks out as being important.
I guess so. Mine is like not as important, life-changing, but, and I know it's going to sound super cliche of me to say it, and I know Kristen already knows what I'm going to say.
Thank you, it's me.
Other than you, getting to interview Trevor Keith from Face to Face. We did a 2-part episode with him, and it's, I think, one of our most listened to ones since we started the podcast. But, you know, like, I've been fortunate enough to become friends with these guys over the last however many years, which, and, you know, it's no secret that we joke around that the Mable Syndrome Podcast's other name is the Face to Face Podcast, because it's very difficult for me to not mention them.
Yes.
But they're just like such a deep, meaningful band to me. And so for me, like listening to them my whole life, you know, since the early teens and stuff, and what their music means to me, and then to get to sit down and talk to Trevor for a really long time. We had to break it into 2 parts kind of thing. And it was just one of those like full circle life-changing moments for me to be like, this is, you know, this is my life. Like, this is something that I'm getting to do. This is something that I'm fortunate enough to like experience. This is insane. And I think, you know, we've had quite a few of those moments, but that's probably the biggest one for me. And I think it's because, you know, punk rock is so emotional for me specifically. And I listened to Face when I was 14 years old in my bedroom, breaking up with a boyfriend, bawling my fucking eyes out, or having a fight with my mom and angry as fuck and playing their album as loud as I could. Or, you know, there's driving around my small town with albums on repeat, or, you know, like there's so many things attached to it for me. So it was just for me that moment of sitting down and getting to like, plus because I respect him so much as a musician, I respect who he is and what he does. And we literally had him on because he came up to us and he was like, so when are you going to ask me to be on the podcast? And we were like, okay, because we kind of shied away from it a little bit, I think. But so he kind of, you know, poked at us a little bit about having him on. And then, so for me, it was just, holy fuck, this is my life. And I'm so grateful is basically what it was.
That is so cool. And I mean, I think music in general does that for people, where, especially as you get older, or I think anytime, but I know, like, you just, for nostalgia purposes, or just looking back, and you're like, man, I bought that tape when I was like 14, and I went and like skateboarded down to the ocean, and I remember reading the lyrics and being like, Guttermouth, you know, like, this is gonna be I can't wait to listen to this, you know, like stuff like that, or a breakup or whatever, and then as you're saying, like, when you're young and you're listening to these bands, like, they're punk rock bands, but they could be like fucking whatever, name a big band. Like, it doesn't, they are J-Lo or Pink Floyd. I'm really relevant into the new bands these days that the kids are into. But they're rock stars too. We put them on a pedestal, and then all of a sudden you're chatting with them, and you're like, this is absolutely crazy. That, like, I guess we're on the same level.
This is a hilarious sort of example of that. But when I was, you know, a little girl, like 8, 9 kind of thing, and my babysitter played New Kids on the Block, and I fucking was like obsessed. They were the first band that I was like, I love these people. I lived in a logging camp of 400 people in the middle of fucking nowhere, and I used to lay in my room and think, maybe they'll show up and sing happy birthday to me. I think that maybe New Kids on the Block, somebody has contacted them to tell them how much I really love them, and they're going to show up in my logging camp town of 400 people, and they're going to sing happy birthday to me. I know it. And so, like, really, the adult version of that was me sitting down and talking to Trevor Keith for 3 hours. Like, it happened, you know? Like, it's just one of those things. And, like, that little girl passionate love for music and, you know, that boy band, and then my teenage nostalgia love for this punk band, that's kind of the same feeling of like, holy shit, this is better than New Kids on the Block singing me happy 9th birthday, you know? Like,
I'm not sure if Face to Face listened to this podcast, but you probably should make that clear that Face to Face are better than New Kids on the Block, just in case. And I was thinking, it'd be too bad you didn't know Kristen back when you were a kid, because I mean, aren't New Kids from Boston? Couldn't you?
Right.
You could have, maybe she was closer. I don't know. She could have probably.
Was that a thing growing up in Boston? Well, you were in Seattle.
Yeah, I did grow up in Boston.
Okay.
But I was a big New Kids on the Block fan too. But
I actually was too.
Yeah. I mean,
saw them play
the
5 years ago. I went to their concert 5 years ago, and I'm not fucking kidding you. One of the best shows I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. If they come back to, I'm not fucking kidding. That's how fun it was.
You froze for a second.
Sorry,
if they came
I
back
can't say that.
if they came back, you would go see them again, I think is what you were saying.
If they came back, yeah, but I would pay for like front row tickets.
Oh,
because it was so fun. Like it was really, really, really fun, and they put on such a good show. Like one of them made out with like I'm sure it was staged, but like one of them like pulled an audience member out of the front row and like made out with her, like kissed her.
Yeah.
And it was obviously set up, but
I was gonna say that almost sounds creepy. That sounds like episodes you guys are doing. Like,
I think it
don't
was probably,
do this, bands.
It was probably like
don't just grab a random girl in the crowd and make out with her.
It was probably prearranged, but like
I would assume
like
so, or we would have heard more about it. I think
there was this little part of my brain where I was like, that could be me.
That could.
I could make out. I could make out with Donnie Wahlberg, right? Like,
I think what you need to do is get him on the podcast. Then you got that connection.
So weird. Okay.
I wanted to say, I think Jessica really likes the Trevor Keith episode because he confirmed for her that she's not a Punisher.
Ah, yes, true.
Okay, I don't know what that means, so you're gonna need to elaborate.
A Punisher is the type of person that bothers the band, that like won't leave them alone, is like, oh, I'm such a big fan of your band, but like never leaves them alone, and like
oh, here comes another one. Here comes the Punisher.
And they
really? Here comes the Punisher. They know. They're like, oh, remember Johnny from Albuquerque? He's such a Punisher, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I've never heard that. I'm learning things.
Yeah.
This is why you tune into Mable Syndrome or have him on your podcast. You learn things.
Thank you.
Oh, not to be a Punisher.
Yes.
Not to be a Punisher. Or I think I'm guilty of meeting band dudes being, or I'd say mostly dudes, because I can't think of any female artists I've reached out to for this yet, other than Amy Interrupter, but I haven't quite asked her. But I'm always like, hey, obviously on the guest list, because we had a beer backstage last, and I'm like, maybe I should just not ask them for shit, They're generally pretty cool about it, but I don't know what that's called. Probably just a pain in the ass.
It's a fine line, I know. We're always worried too. I know that. Right? I know, it's like with the guys from Face to Face. Like, I still am like, don't want to ask for too much or push, and it's so obvious too, right? Like, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm still buying tickets. I always will buy tickets because I want to support the band.
Yes.
And then if I don't have to use them, I give them away.
Yeah. And that's great. And then you just buy a bunch of merch, because I don't think I've ever seen a picture of the two of you together, or at least one of you is not wearing Face to Face something.
Well, I have a Face to Face tattoo now, so I'm always wearing it.
I was gonna say, it looks like we're wearing just pretty standard black shirts right now, but there's got to be a Face to Face tattoo on one.
There is.
Cool. But as the podcast, so I mean, you turn into a podcast, and you had to be like 5 years ago. I'll be honest. Like, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts, even still. I listen to everyone I've ever been on, but that's really about it. The odd one here and there. But I think 5 years ago, it was still sort of a newer thing. Like you were, or 4 years ago, or whatever. You were kind of you came in early to the show.
We did.
Yeah.
Thanks, Danny Thompson, who said it was going to be easy, but it wasn't.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is a lot of work. Kristen does she does all the work. We have this like joke about, remember when you called me a cog in the wheel? I'm the cog. And like, it stuck with me forever, but it's true. Like, she's the whole wheel. I'm just the cog. Kristen literally, we're very different personalities. I'm an Aries, but they say Aries are like go-getters and do a lot of stuff, and they're always really busy. And I feel like that's not me. I feel like I do what I have to do. Yeah. But Kristen has generally the entire time been the driving force behind this, and I just show up and fart up the front and be ridiculous, I feel like. But
it's a yin and yang thing.
It is. It definitely is. And there have been times where we've had to carry each other off and on. And I left Mable Syndrome for a while. Like, I had to make the call to like back away just because I had to. And apparently, and now I'm back,
Yeah.
But
I hope so. I mean, You're on here.
I'm on
here. Let's make it official on my podcast.
You can make this like a big, huge, like social media announcement.
That's how I'm promoting this. Jessica's back.
Right. But she's always been the one that does like the editing and the like, you know, the platform that we're using and mails out all the merch and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's not easy. And
no,
so I can never praise her enough. I'm sorry. I just I can never like love on her enough about what she does. So I'm lucky I got brought into this. That's how I feel. I'm lucky I got brought into this.
Cool. And
is that your smoke alarm?
All right. So we got to have a couple interruptions. You go make sure your house isn't on fire. And Jess. Oh wow.
Oh, she has a puppy barking too. I bet that puppy just pooped all over the floor.
I bet. Yeah, I don't. It's like a new puppy.
It's new-ish, but she's like one of those puppies that like fits in the palm of your hand size.
Okay, so it'll be a small poop if it did shit itself.
Yeah,
at least, hopefully. Yeah. Although if it is its first fire alarm, there could be some.
It's like just spraying.
So yes, residual colon storage that's just gonna.
Did Maggie poop all over when that happened?
She was scared, but it happens on hot days. How weird is that?
Well, it must be really friggin' hot if your fire alarm's going off.
How hot is it?
It's hot here.
Yeah. I feel like we should discuss globe. No, I was, you know what? So it started off with you two and your guests, of course, and your followers, but you expanded it and it became, would it be safe to say almost sort of like a collective? Like there's a bunch of different members all over. Is it the US? Is it North America? Is it the world where you have other Mabels?
It's all over the world.
Yeah. Representing the brand, the podcast, the cause. You have them all over, correct?
Yeah, there's there's different tiers of how people are involved, right? So there's like Jess and I are always kind of running the show. And then we have a group of like 5 or 6 advisors kind of that we run ideas by and that really help and support us a lot. And then we have other people that contribute when they can. We have people that write blogs, that we've invited people to do like written interviews and contribute in those kinds of ways. And then we have the women only group where women really offer a lot of support to one another and because there's a lot of issues that are unique to us in punk rock and we wanted a safe place where people could talk about things that were important to them. And so we have that group. And then we have people that are just kind of casual listeners and followers and just want to support what we do.
We also have this other really amazing part that was started by one of our like head advisors. And it's a Mable Syndrome gift exchange. And twice a year we do a sort of Secret Santa type draw using like the platform Elfster, where you just automatically get signed up with people. So like we do this Mable Syndrome gift exchange twice a year. There's like a spring and fall, summer, winter type pattern. And you get assigned someone from anywhere in the world that is another Mabel, and you mail them like a gift package. And so,
cool.
It's really cool. Like, so you never know who you're going to get. And you twice a year, if you sign up, you like get this amazing gift package of like unique punk rock women tailored items to what you love. And it's just a way of like kind of connecting with other women and getting a random mail package. That's super awesome. Right?
That is fucking cool. I love that you do that. That's really neat. And then do people kind of tend to go, so like you're from Canada, do you throw like sort of Canadian stuff or West Coast stuff? Just kind of
ketchup chips in there.
Some ketchup chips, some Smarties and some
I always throw in like a couple local things to my community just because like how, you know, West Coast and where I am.
So a salmon.
Yeah, I'm gonna mail a whole salmon to my Mabel this year. But you know, like I think the last package I got was like this amazing, like she knitted this hand knitted blanket for the baby because she knew I had a baby, and like just super people put a lot of effort into it. It's really incredible because who doesn't love to get mail? Never mind out of the blue, and something that's really tailored to you. It's really cool.
I agree. I gotta do a quick shout here because I gotta shout out to Pamster. I don't even know. Pamster. I'm sure Pam is a Turbo Jugend friend out of Seattle. And she sends out care packages because we kind of do that with patches, and I'm shitty at it. But Pam is the best. Like, I always joke that she must be, like, spend more time at the fucking post office than anywhere else because she just sends shit to everybody, and it's cool
She's
stuff.
She's a Mabel, too.
Is she a Mabel? Fuck off. Okay, that makes sense. That rules. All right, Pam, what's up?
Pam, I hope I got you as my fucking secret Elster Mable Syndrome gift exchange because you sound great.
She's like my birthday this year. Like, I just got a knock on the door and it was like Amazon. I'm like, I don't remember ordering anything. Like, did I have a big night and order some shit? I don't remember. And it was just like a box of all these vegan snacks, you know? So it's just really, yeah, and it was great. And I still have some of them because it was just like, it was a big box and it was a lot of stuff. And I'm like, so I think that's great you do it. And cross your fingers that you get some. Pam gets your name.
Pam gets your name. That's funny.
Yeah, she kicks ass. And she's a listener. She's part, that's so cool. She's part of your world. She's part of my world.
Awesome.
Very, very cool.
Shout out, Pam.
Hard shout out to Pam.
Also, if you get Pam in the Mable Syndrome gift exchange, pressure's on.
Yes, yeah. Do you want to? We chatted a while ago that you kind of had a bit of a. You're trying to do this good stuff and get everybody on board, and did you not have a bit of a falling out with some of your members?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go there?
We can go there.
Yeah.
I called you for advice. Basically, we had like a big just video call one night because shit was happening, and I was like, oh, this is fucked. And so I think with any kind of success, there comes, I'm gonna tread lightly here because it's just gonna fucking blow up again. But I think with any kind of success, there comes haters, there comes jealousy,
Put it this way, if you don't like how this turns out, we'll edit it out.
Okay.
So just, yeah.
I think that there's a lot of feelings that can happen when a lot of women work together, regardless of how hard you try. I think that there's never been any ill will wished upon other people. I think that, how do I want to say it? I think that there's a lot of women that we work with, and we're all in different areas of our life. We're all in different time zones. We all have different things going on.
Different ages too, right? Quite a range in ages for sure.
Different ages and
life experience.
Life experiences. And the thing that happens too is that all our communication is online. So things get misinterpreted, things get assumed. So that can cause tough situations. We did have a few people that we were really part of our sort of inner circle. There was a falling out, and I think that happens. It's natural sometimes.
Yeah.
It was shitty. It was hard, but it's done with. It's over. It's not like an ongoing thing, but it was hard because everybody was involved in the same scene, and we fight really hard to support women, and it got really turned into like a us and them situation, and that was fucked.
And I that's kind of why I was asking, because I feel like that's just like the day we live in, and that was sort of, I talked about in the last episode where somebody kind of, this drummer quits the band and starts working out with people in the army, and all of a sudden they're like, "You're a Proud Boy," and he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But it's this weird time where like everybody has to be, it's very divisive, and it's like one little thing gets blown to proportion and people pick their sides, and it's like we're all in the same fucking scene here, and we're all trying to hopefully make it better. And let's work to make it better, not fucking tear each other down or break things down, right?
What do you want to say about it, Kristen? Did I ramble my way through that okay?
I think just
very diplomatic.
Online miscommunication is a huge part of it. Because and sometimes we've never met somebody in real life, and we have what we consider to be a relationship with them or a friendship with them, and then when things fall out, you don't have that real life experience to even fall back on, or like be like, I know they're a good person because I've met them, and it's just the online thing makes it that much more complicated. And we have dealt with a lot of shit. We've dealt with a lot of like trolling, like people making fake accounts and commenting on our social media, and people calling us out for various things that we try really hard not to do or to do or whatever. It's just
we've been called like a white girls club. We've been called racist. We've been called like, there's so many random things that we've been called that are so not.
I had just had a trans person on our podcast, and then released that episode, and the next day someone told us we weren't diverse enough, that we weren't being diverse enough. And then when I tried to defend that, then people get all upset, and it's like, no, we work really hard to include everybody.
Yeah, for sure you do.
Completely open to everybody, but the two people that run the podcast are both white cis women, and that's just who we are. And but we work really hard to make it inclusive of everybody. We have people of color that have written for us. We've had people of color on the podcast. We've had trans people. We've had all sorts of different people.
You had a wheelchair guy.
We did.
Handsome fella.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
And a fan.
Yeah, we're open to everybody. So to have that kind of stuff thrown at us it's really hurtful. And especially, we don't make money off of Mabel. We're not doing it because
no, we lose money, trust me.
Okay.
I get that.
Yeah. And so we're just doing it because we're good people that love music and want to help out bands. And so to be thrown under the bus or thrown shade or whatever, it can be really hurtful.
I was going to say, it must really hurt, especially when you're trying to do the right thing. And I don't know. When people criticize us, of course, you could have a million compliments and one shitty criticism, and those seem to like sting, right?
Yeah.
And you think that, or you doubt that you're doing the right thing, or that, but oh man.
And to be honest, like when we started the podcast, we were really, really like, we're not going to get political. We're not going to talk about our personal lives. We're not going to, I know, sorry.
Really?
we
I don't know about the political thing, but
we were like, we're not going to talk about voting. We're not going to talk about political parties. We're not going to talk about, because we were just like, that's not what we're about. We didn't start off as Mable Syndrome hardcore advocates for X, Y, and Z. And like literally right now, I feel like we're in the kind of climate that if you don't advocate for every single platform, you're considered like you're excluding. And it's funny because I listen to the Dax Shepard podcast pretty regularly, and he kind of has like a couple things that he feels really strongly about. And then when a topic comes up that he's not like a known advocate for, he's like, don't fucking write me letters because I can only put so much effort into like the issues that I find important. But of course I believe that this is important, but it's just not my platform. Yeah. And so we sort of ended up being this female advocacy group and safe space group and all these different things. But like, just because we don't like on every episode talk about a specific issue doesn't mean it's not important to us. It just means it's not what we're doing in that 60 minutes that we've managed to squeeze out in the whole month to connect in, a time zone where she's 7 hours ahead of me. So
yeah. And I imagine time is the thing. So your focus is on that. But I imagine also, like you're saying, you weren't going to be political, but or really get into personal stuff. But I would bet that over the years, you probably got a lot of messages from, listeners and supporters who an episode you did or a topic you covered really struck home with them. And there's probably times when it was something maybe you didn't even know you were really touching on, but it hit close to home, and they wrote you and you went, fuck, we got to talk about that. And did your like message sort of expand as you went along, because you're like, well, we can't leave that out because people are taking that away from this?
Yeah, definitely.
Was that a loaded question?
We started out being like, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
That was our motto. And we were like, we're just gonna stick with the positive. And then with women in punk rock, sexual assault and assault in general and those kinds of topics have really come to our attention, and we couldn't deny it anymore. It was just like
I thought I was the only one with my tits being grabbed at a fucking concert aggressively and being it like brushed off as like we're just in a busy crowd. I thought I was the only one. Apparently not. Apparently happens to fucking 99%, you know, like I was shocked. So even though we didn't want to talk about things like that, like we started finding people that were experiencing the issues we were. So
yes.
So of course I'm going to talk about it, you know, like I got fucking drugged at a strung out show, and I feel like it drastically changed my course of my life forever. And when it got talked about, people were like, me too. Oh my God, it happened to me. Oh my God, me too. And it's like, holy shit. So yeah, of course you have to talk about it when it comes up. Right.
Well, and you just said that, like, when we were chatting before this, that somebody got drugged at a show. Didn't you say like that just happened?
I went to a show a couple weeks ago, and I was messaging my friend because we were going to meet up at the show, and she never got back to me. She got back to me the next day, and she said, sorry, I left via ambulance because I was drugged. And the venue ushered her right out as soon as she was kind of staggering, and then they found drugs in her system, and you know, and they went back on videotape to try to figure out who did it, and they couldn't figure it out. But it happens a lot. A lot of women have come forward to us personally, or just outwardly, and said that they've been drugged at a show. I mean, it happens more than people want to admit, more than venues want to admit.
And I think more than I would have never thought that happens. Like, I do drugs at a show, but I've never been drugged at a show. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I was drinking water.
Yeah. So and would you say, is there sometimes they're like, well, I probably just had a few too many drinks. You're like, I was drinking fucking water. So no, that's not.
I went to the doctor, and she was like, well, did you go to the emergency room? And I was like, I couldn't. I was floating above my bed, looking at myself, dying. Like, no, I didn't go to the emergency room. She's like, well, nothing we can do about it.
Wow.
It's insane. So yeah, when issues like that come up, like as we've developed more of a following and more of a listening base and stuff, yeah, of course we're going to talk about it, because at first we thought it was just Kristen and I. So of course, like, who's going to listen to us? But now that we have that, of course.
We're constantly redefining who we are and what we are, and we're constantly moving, and
of course,
I think that's a beauty of it too, right? Like,
so is society and culture, and right, like
our world is a very different place right now than it was 5 years ago.
That is for sure.
So
yeah, well, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and that you're looking out for the females out there in our scene, for everybody in our scene.
Yeah.
And you know, educating the man too on kind of what's what, and on how to be better, you know, and respect these ladies at our scene, and fucking know we're all equal parts. Yeah. Actually, I'd say the women are better. Fuck the guys. Yeah. You two are definitely fucking beauties.
Oh,
I love you both.
Thank you. Oh, we love you too.
And I know, Kristen, you got to go pick up kids, I think, in like a minute. So, you're very welcome.
This is super cool. I'm really glad this finally happened, for sure.
I am too. And I will say, going on your podcast was one of the things that kind of made me go, hey, I got to do this. I got to do this at some point. So I thank you for that inspiration.
Oh, thanks.
And I thank you for all the good work you're doing.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for ignoring whoever's crying baby that is, just to stick around and hang out with me. Yes, there is.
Well, I actually, when we had that weird pause and I had to we restarted and I ran out. When I came in here to start the interview, the baby was in the high chair with the 11-year-old watching the baby. And then when I went out midway through, he was still in his high chair. So he's safe.
Yeah, that's good. Sweet. Okay, final words, ladies. Any final words?
No, subscribe to us on iTunes and Spotify. We appreciate that. And check out our website, mablesyndrome.com. We have a new article out with Kathy Mason, who is one of the women who runs Punk Rock Bowling behind the scenes. And she has a whole team of women. If people didn't know, there's this team of women. Everyone knows the Stern brothers, right? But not a lot of people know that there's this team of women behind Punk Rock Bowling that run the whole show. Yeah. So we have an interview with her and her team up on our website right now. And so check out our website, check out our social media, Instagram, Facebook.
Join us. Join us. Yeah.
Join the crew.
Spread the word. And I mean, thanks for this platform for letting us talk, Kevin. And thanks to everybody who does follow Mabel. Like we're daily shocked and amazed and grateful that it's not just Kristen and I sitting in our living rooms going like, what are we doing? So we're very grateful for this opportunity and for getting to do things like sitting down and talk to people like you, because it's way more fun being interviewed. Holy fuck, there's a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
Are you going to punk rock bowling, Kevin?
Pardon me?
Are you going to punk rock bowling?
I'm hoping I'm going to punk rock bowling, but it looks, I'm sort of following there's a Turbo Yugen punk rock bowling page, and everybody's going like, because they're sort of changing the rules. I still have tickets, but a lot of people are canceling out. I don't have a flight booked. I don't have a room booked. I might be an 11th hour kind of thing, because, and I might I want to go, but if half the people that normally go aren't going to be there, if it's going to be weird, if I have no friends going, like I might just save my dollars and put them towards the Flog and Molly cruise and bank on that hopefully happening at the end of March, because that fucking rules just as much.
That's a great lineup too.
Yeah. So hopefully, were you going?
Punk rock bowling, yeah.
You are, for sure?
There's a large Mabel group going.
If it's happening, I'm there, but I don't know.
Well, then maybe I'll just come chill with the Mabels.
Come chill with Mabels.
Yeah. I'll have at least one. Pam will be there, so I'll have a crossover Yugen Mabel party.
There you go.
Pool party.
Fucking rights. Let's do it. Okay.
I'll live vicariously through you all on my farm in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, we'll just throw on a punk rock bowling playlist and, I don't know, throw some rocks at some sticks and pretend you're bowling.
Yeah.
Or we'll FaceTime you. Yeah, that was.
I always love the FaceTime. It's nothing like getting a punk rock FaceTime from Kristen at a show just to make me cry in my living room.
She's trying to bring you into the party. We'll get
she is, and it's amazing every time.
Yeah, we'll get you out to one of these. Well, I'm gonna just end this by saying that you're just saying you're grateful for all of the success you've had and the followers and everything like that, but you wouldn't have it if you weren't great at what you do and you weren't doing an important thing. So again, keep it up. You're rad. Mable Syndrome, thanks for coming on the podcast today. We will be in touch. And you know what? I'm thinking I have sort of a green light from Fat to use their music. But I have to ask the bands first. I've got quite a few bands permission, but Cog in the Wheel by Lagwagon, would that be a good?
Beautiful.
Or Face to Face.
Let's do Lagwagon. We do a lot of face to face, and I already feel like a dick. So let's do the Lagwagon for sure.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, have a great day, and love you both. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye bye. Let the fuel